I listened to this woman and what she was saying and what she was doing on TV, the only thing I could do to collect my thoughts was to go and walk among the finest men and women on this earth. And you can always find them because they're in Arlington National Cemetery. Went over there for an hour and a half, walked among the stones, some of whom I put there because they were doing what I told them to do when they were killed. So I still hope, as you write your stories, and I appeal to America, that let's not let this maybe last thing that's held sacred in our society. A young man, young woman going out and giving his or her life for our country. Let's try to somehow keep that sacred.
Yeah, let's see if we can. Chief of Staff John Kelly defending President Trump's call to a Gold Star widow, all while honoring the sacrifice of our troops, some of which served under him. Joining us right now with their reaction is our panel, and we're privileged to have them with us. Former Navy SEAL and CEO of Combat Wounded Coalition, Jason Redman's here. Retired Army Ranger Sean Parnell is back and best-selling author, as well as Army veteran and NYPD officer Dr. Darren Porcher, who did early duty today at 4 a.m. Jason, first to you. Your reaction to what the Chief of Staff / General Kelly did yesterday. Do you think he answered all the questions and put it in perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nobody better than General Kelly from both sides of the coin, both being a general who took men into combat and men and women who sacrificed everything about them, their time away from family, and ultimately that ultimate sacrifice that laid some of them to rest. Second part of that, John Kelly lost his own son. The impact of losing your own family member, I have friends that have had somebody show up at that door. I was severely wounded. It could have possibly been me. It's just, you cannot comprehend it unless you've been there. So I can see why John Kelly was so stunned at Representative Wilson's comments.
Yeah, and I've, to your point, I've made calls to family members and notified them when they've lost loved ones. It is a sacred process. And for a Democratic Congresswoman to use that and come out and attack President Trump, to me, is just reprehensible, and it represents a compromise of that sacred trust that exists between the president, the commander-in-chief, and our military that supports him.
You know, the president brought up a very valid point, and a lot of people putting this on the back end. We all sitting at this table know and understand when we took the oath, we knew that this was something that was always in the background. So when Trump made that statement, he knew what he was up against. I truly agree, and we all feel the same way. I don't think that in any way, shape, or form it was a disheartening comment. It was just something that came into play. So when he mentioned General Kelly making this statement, I mean, he has three different roles. He's a Gold Star father. He's also a politician, as at the forefront in the White House as the Chief of Staff, coupled with being a military general, and no better person could have presented that.
And if it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Darren, I agree with you. But guess what happened after? He answered every question. Why the president said what he said, why he made the phone calls he did, what went into the process of going into that, why he used the term he did. And then politics went back into the fray. Take a look at Brian Fallon, who, by the way, his genius had Hillary Clinton blow the easiest election possible to an upstart billionaire. Brian Fallon tweets this out about General Kelly. Kelly isn't just an enabler of Trump. He's a believer in him. That makes him as odious as the rest. Don't be distracted by his uniform. He says Kelly was chief of staff at the DHS. He defended Trump's travel ban and overseeing mass deportations. So he put down a guy that just put everything in perspective for this country. What is your reaction to that?
Kelly was a three-star general.
Remove that from the equation. The fact that he's the chief of staff, you know, you want to talk about things like that. The mere fact that he laid his son to rest. Take the fact out that he was ever a general, he wore the uniform, and look at him as a Gold Star family member. Someone who sent his very own son off to fight for the freedoms that every one of us in this country enjoy. That statement was the height of ignorance, and it's a total misunderstanding.
You mean the tweet?
That tweet, yeah, absolutely, was the height of ignorance, in my opinion.
All of my life, I have been enjoying the passive support of the left. Like, we support the troops, but just not the mission, right? And now we're supposed to believe that they're the moral authority or the judge and jury on how to support our troops, right? With Congresswoman attacking President Trump. And now you have everybody else coming out and now attacking General John Kelly, the White House chief of staff, who is a retired general himself, lost his son. Now they're attacking him, and really what it does is it shows you how they truly feel about the military.
It does. And I'll say this, too. I think the average American is not looking at Brian Fallon or this left-wing congresswoman. I think they get it. You don't see a politician when that chief of staff was behind that podium. I want to bring you to something that Kelly is overseeing and part of. You know, General McMaster is a national security advisor. You know, Dunford is chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and with Kelly, they're inseparable, as well as Mattis. They've changed the rules of engagement, Darren, and things are really making progress. Yesterday, Raqqa fell. ISIS is dispersed. Your reaction?
I think that the military is doing a resounding job. A lot of things they don't take credit for because that's not what the military does. But just going back to what this congressperson did, I think that she used politics to advance her ideology, and it totally moved away from the death and the loss of a military member out in this place, Niger. And I think that is what the focus should be, not so much what the congresswoman's statement was moving forward, because she had this diametric opposition to Trump in the past, and this just came to fruition, and she used this as a vehicle to advance.
And what's so amazing, too, in the president, in the chief of staff's remarks, he pointed out that he met her before in 2015 when they opened up a brand new FBI building where they were going over the sacred loss of 3 FBI agents in the battlefield, at which time she went up to speak. Didn't even acknowledge that. She said, I picked up the phone, asked President Obama for $20 million, and I got it. And all the military officers and law enforcement officials were like, my goodness, how inappropriate was that?
Well, and it would have been nice if her voting record in Congress was one that supported the veterans. I mean, she voted time and again against things that would have helped veterans year after year after year during the longest period of war in our nation's history. And, you know, the election of President Trump did not create hate in the left, but boy, it certainly is revealing it now.
Right. We should tell our 2 former presidents that yesterday they seem to be blaming President Trump for that. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I could go on for another 4 hours with you guys. Jason Redman, Darren Porcher, Sean Parnell, thanks so much.
Thank you.